Recording is on.
Hello, world. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is February 21, 2021. How's that for numbers? We're grateful to Clinton Ignatoff for facilitating. He'll join us again. And it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with Kit Galloway. Kit, is that the right way to pronounce your name?
That works. Yeah. It's hard to mess it up.
Kit, what's the best thing for a human being?
Did you say what is the best thing for a human being?
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, staying out of trouble.
Oh, I like that. And so, what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
My favorite form is that's you know there's such a tsunami of information now, one almost forgets what normal was, or what you could depend on. Um, I like getting information from friends and trusted news services.
Very good. Trusted news. But that's how you're getting what form. So, friends would be word of mouth or anything, emails or letters or phone calls.
Yeah, when they invented the telegraph, people were very suspicious. They said the information's coming so fast you can't hear it from your friends, so you don't know if it's true or not.
That's a good one. Wikipedia defines social media's beginning is electronic word, which is telegraph. So we started with spoken word, we went to printed word, and then we went to electronic word. So that's very interesting. Now, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Why do they collect information? It's just part of the program. If you're living out in the woods alone, you collect information by, not getting eaten by an animal, or you catch or grow your food, and that's what we do. We're basically pattern recognition creatures, and that's why I like these eyes back here. And then we take it from there.
Yeah. Well, do you think this need or want, because I love your use of pattern recognition, we're on the same beam totally. Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate in human beings or more invented?
Need for information? I don't know. There's some communities out there that have a lack of need for acquiring information, or learning or reading or finding out things. And so I don't know. We're just there's an information environment, and where it's like water for fish,
Right. But I would say me and you would probably agree that eating food is innate in humans.
Yeah, try it. Try not eating for a year.
Well, yeah, we've been told there's breatharians, so they say
on a liquid diet. I lost 35 pounds here, so I've lost my.
But do you think? Just in general, do you think? Drop the word need. Collecting information, is it more innate or more invented?
I don't think it's an invention. If it's an invention, then you have to pass the word to people, and that's a lot of word of mouth. I just think it's innate. Yeah. It's a response to the environment that will bite you if you don't pay attention.
Yeah. Boy, you're using all the metaphors we love. Fish and water, pattern recognition. Kit, do thoughts create emotions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm 73. I still have a thought, and I get horny.
Very good. Do you more pursue meaning or more pursue happiness?
Meaning a little bit more. But if that's all you have, you're not very happy.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to your last one because I loved you say I was still horny. You know, one of my favorite lines is from Bridget Bardot. She goes, "When I make love, I don't think. I say to her, good luck." Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness?
Maybe.
Yeah. So, I mean, is consciousness there and we're sort of creating it, or are we just sort of detecting it? How much are we making consciousness?
It's like, is it happening to us or we're extruding it?
Yeah.
Consciousness happened over a long period of time, and do we make it happen? I don't. I think we are. I think it's a gift. It just came to us through the ages, and then now we have to use it, deal with it.
I like that word gift. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of light. I mean, neuron synaptics. They. I really haven't seen what the speed, how fast that happens, but I don't think there's anything quite faster than light, or the receding of darkness.
Well put. So Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? Those quotes applied or not? Your choice.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around. You can't just deconstruct the master's house without having the tools he used to build them. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
that's Audre Lorde pretty much said what you just said. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. But then Yvonne responded, you can if you expose the tools. So the main question is what new tool do you suggest?
For deconstructing?
Well, you can. That's what I'm saying. A lot of these questions, you put them into the context you want. So you can apply the question to those two quotes or not. It's basically what new question do you, or what new tool do you suggest?
Well, the tool we often revert to is destruction. And so if you want to dismantle Antifa or something like that, what's the tool to do that? The truth.
Wow, the truth is a tool. Well, I did see your amazing presentation at SciArc, and I really appreciated that. People can watch that on YouTube, and I suggest it. And this came up, destruction, but you can clarify what you meant, that you can create on the same level as you can destroy.
That was the
Can
title
you?
of our manifesto that we wrote in '83 for our Orwellian antidote project, the Electronic Cafe Network. That was part of the Olympic Arts Festival in 1984, where we took what had been traditionally text-based bulletin boards from Lee Felsenstein, who put the first public terminal out in '73 in Berkeley, the beginning of it all. And so we took that text-based situation. Sherry and I called ourselves avantpreneurs, and we asked, is there anything beyond art? Is that like the wall we hit? I mean, what's on the other side? So we developed a practice of not aspiring to be curated or be museum or gallery brats. and we were more sort of socio-politically driven, and we'd worked with the early small format video stuff. And I got a couple minutes to answer this. I may forget what the question was. Oh yeah, so we wrote this manifesto, and it was called The Challenge. And that is, we must learn to create at the same scale as we can destroy. And we felt that at that time, the yet to emerge global multimedia telecollaborative environment, or the web as we know it today, didn't exist. So we took a basic text-based bulletin board and put it in the Korean community, Black South Central, East Los Angeles, Venice Beach, and MoCA, the museum, which we weren't too concerned about, but they were paying for it. Or no, they paid for half of it. We paid for the rest. So for 7 weeks, people could draw together in a shared screen. They could take pictures. They could annotate on pictures. We used an optical disc recorder for them to not only create text-based discourse and conversations or record aspects of their lives, but they could also upload images that could be annotated with the tablet, and then they could do a keyword search. And then so we also handed over to the public all of this systems integrated, interoperable multimedia environment, which emulated what the net was going to be. And then they could search the database and download a keyword searchable pictorial database as well. The world had never seen that, and we integrated all that and put it out in the public. And then, as we did, like with Hole in Space, we set these things up and get out of the way. We don't want to be the authors. Then the people gets to define it. And then that whole discourse about, and we designed it for 84, was to get the public to start defining what they want as an information ecology, rather than ending up being consumers with what they get. You know, there's a long tradition of centralization, the railroads, radio, television, and now the net. And we see the problems, and it's all gone in, it's all a mess. It's really all just out of control. And that's because we are consuming yet another potential revolution rather than just defining what we want.
Yeah. Kit, you are really articulate.
So that was the title. And you can see, you can look, it's online, and just look up Galloway Rabinowitz Manifesto on the Google Nader.
Yeah, we actually have a link to your site, and people can study that. So Marshall McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race, and they're broadcasting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with these inventions. So Marshall's really big probe was, why do people still ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions when we can turn to the artists to reveal them to us? How would you approach that question?
Well, when Sherry and I, Sherry was invited over to Paris by Felix Guattari of Deleuze and Guattari.
Yeah.
And I knew him too. I'd worked with him on some video projects with heroin addicts to get them to make films about their lives, and then they might get interested in doing something other than shoving a needle in their arm. Anyway, Sherry arrived with all these videotapes that people were making in the United States to show the French what the Americans were doing, because the French, the tax on the Japanese video equipment was so high that the activists and people couldn't afford it. So this was kind of like a show and tell of what we're able to do, or what people are doing in the United States if you had access to that technology. So when we got together, we said, what's the most intrinsic thing about this medium of video? And the conclusion was its ability to carry a living event. That's what distinguishes it from film. And so we looked at the world and we saw all of these things that were not getting done. Some of them could have been done years ago, but there seemed to be a crisis of imagination, not only in the industry, but in the art world. So the question is there anything beyond art and being curated and having a show and being invited to a Biennale? I mean, what a heartbreaker that would be. So we said, we're just going to pass on this. And we called ourselves Avantpreneurs. And Avantpreneurs leap ahead of the arts and the industry to use inadequate technologies of our time to demonstrate and make approximations of the new ways of being in the world that people haven't seen yet. So we did, and we couldn't do it in France. We wanted to get access to a satellite. There wasn't broadband technology anywhere other than satellites, unless you could, I mean, you couldn't go out and rent a transcontinental microwave link to get from one part of the country to the other. It just wasn't available. You couldn't buy a ticket. So we heard that NASA was offering some access to a satellite that they had, a demonstration satellite that was a broadcast satellite. And they were looking for other uses because the government was cutting their funding for satellite development, going to turn it over to private enterprise. So we hopped on a Russian liner, the Mikhail Lermontov, sailed to Manhattan, and then went down to DC and talked to them and gave them a proposal of these things that we wanted to do. And so we got our satellite. And what we wanted to do was to show something that hadn't been done before. And so it wasn't about dance. People say it thinks it's about dance. So what we did, we set up, we put performers at both ends of the continent. And we created a two-way satellite link, and then we mixed the image. We finally tore down that wall, like Reagan's Gorbachev tear down that wall. Remote sites always had a split screen, so we got rid of that so that people could cross and mix with each other, and they could occupy the space. This was the first model of an immersive, tele-immersive virtual space. Yeah, performers perform together, and then we moved to LA and we did Hole in Space. And then we did other things at Loyola Marymount and stuff like that, where people lived in the Images place. So anyway, what we were bringing into existence was things that could have been done. So we felt that the art world had been sequestered in such a way that they felt that if artists showed up in the last quarter of the century to send faxes to each other and text and discover they could send mail art faster over a phone line, this was not pioneering. This was just becoming late arriving end users of an environment that people died for to create, and the military. And so they were just creatively kind of using it and animating. And we didn't feel the arts was getting far enough ahead of the thing. Now, McLuhan, I know that, I think that quote was repeated even in the Playboy interview, but we kind of questioned that the art world is kind of screwed up in a way. And now there's the dangers of having a little bit of information. I'm waiting for Eduardo Cac or somebody like that to drop a petri dish in a biolab and create the pathogen that ends the species. So we got to think about what we're doing. And so the Avantpreneur job was to leap out beyond what the linear progression of arts and industry and show people, and what we called it was the new ways of being in the world that hadn't arrived yet. And that we needed to start acculturating these new spaces and grow with a new brainstem and the new appendages to be able to creatively animate them. McLuhan observed a lot of stuff, but he never gave us a roadmap.
Yeah, he said a great line. He says, I'm not starting the fire, I'm just turning on the alarm. But that was brilliant. And I want to just make sure people understand that Gene Youngblood, the author of the amazing book Expanded Cinema, was how we really connected for this discussion, and kudos to him. And I would like to continue. That was brilliant. The SciArc YouTube video that you did with Sherry shows a lot of that footage that you described. Kit, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Well, you have to decide in each case, you have to
Yeah.
form an opinion. It's just that there's a lot of people forming opinions that aren't very good at it.
Yeah. Can you conjure up or tell us your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
What?
Can you tell me your earliest memory ever, or one of your earliest memories?
You mean as a child or an infant?
Yeah.
I don't remember anything until after high school.
Well, how about after high school memory? Tell me
Well,
one
then I
early.
got drafted, and then I smoked a lot of hashish, and then I kind of woke up in '71 in Amsterdam in a boat that we bought by dealing hash, and met Ralph Abraham, the chaos mathematician, who introduced me to Jack Moore and the video heads, and we built a video theater in Amsterdam, which is now the Milky Way, which is just rock and roll now. But yeah, I kind of like I was, memories. I don't know, but I was kind of a late bloomer. I think I'm an intuit. The things that I know, I just somehow, like doing computer systems integration and these projects that we did, they were just sort of like I was like an open vessel waiting for the muse to come in and say, hey, you need to get busy and go do this, and get down and get on your knees and go do this and shut up.
That's really good. Just staying on memory for a second. Kit, do you think memory is more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, you have to ask. Okay. Well, what? Yeah, it's both.
Yeah. And can you tell me an early role model within your immediate family growing up, someone who had an impact on you, and what was that impact? Just briefly.
Well, fortunately, unlike a lot of people, I had a pretty easy childhood. My parents didn't get in my way, so they never caused me a problem. But my father was kind of like a handyman. He could fix a car motor. He could build a house. He could do all of this. He could crawl under the house when it was below 10 degrees in the winter with a torch and thaw out the water pipes. And he could just march into anything and do anything. He was not a rich man. He was not well read. He wasn't particularly religious. I was fortunate of that. Once a year, we'd go dress up in itchy clothes and have to sit on a hard bench on Easter and then come back and eat some really bad candy and get sick. That's about all my religious training is.
Hey, how'd you know that you anticipated my next question? You must have ESP. So what do you think you mainly got from your dad? That sense of fixing things up, and we're a hard worker, or what'd you get from him? Work ethic, or?
I just think multiplexing kind of a thing where it's just not going to the office every day,
Yeah.
Paying the mortgage.
How about outside your immediate family? Anyone who had an impact on you growing up, what was that impact, and who was it?
School friends, mostly. The relatives were not, they were just regular, middle America kind of folks, and not much going on there other than, reunions and family things, and that was important. And but I met a couple really neat people who actually moved into my town from out of town, so they sort of brought this other sort of worldview with them. But Buzz Geisel, who I've lost track with, we were two guys that were artists in the school, and we painted weirdo shirts and with airbrushes, and all kinds of stuff. And so we sort of created our own sort of reality bubble. And then I lost track of him. I don't know where he is or if he's even still alive. But, it's good to have a buddy who stands there with you and you can go out and sort of like, get out of the bubble together.
That camaraderie is really important in understanding community. And I always do give you kudos for the community you created with Electronic Cafe, because I had many enlightening experiences right there in Santa Monica, and I'm here in Venice. So do you pray?
I just lost your audio.
Do you pray? You talked a little about being raised a little religious once a year, but do you pray?
No. And I'm even suspicious about hope. I think you just got to, get off your ass, do shit.
Yeah. If God does exist,
I'm not gonna let Jesus drive the bus. That's not working for me.
Yeah, but if God does exist, what would you want God to tell you after you die?
How did all this get started, and where's it going?
That's good. And so, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Oh, as if it's an entity with strings or operating the mannequins. No, that's no. I think people are just not hugged enough, and they get fucked up.
Oh, that is a great answer. A great performance artist, Ann Magnuson, I says, what's the best thing for a human being? She goes, hugging. I goes, that's what my mom taught me. That was a good answer, Kit. So, Kit, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I'm going to set this one up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So I'm asking you, how would you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, Kit, how would you specifically react to Alan Watts's line? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Not necessarily. I don't think. I mean, it's you have to navigate life, and people will get in your way, and people will be jealous, and people will just not like the color of your skin or how tall you are or how you played pool. So you just you just want to navigate around that. That's just bad. That's just bad stuff, and it's their problem, and you don't want to have to help them through it unless it's somebody you love.
So how do you basically advise people to deal with an enemy?
Well, there's different kinds of enemies. There's bad critics, who have an audience. There's there's people throwing spears at you, maybe when you leave the house. You just have to temper your I don't know. You just have to. It depends on what they're trying to do to you. Ruin your reputation, kill you. There's kind of a whole spectrum there.
There is indeed. I like your word navigate. I think that nailed it. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in a movie theater in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Kit, why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Because a lot of people are too busy feeding their family and staying out of jail, tilling the land, and all the things they have to do to make a living, which it's kind of all stacked against us. This whole labor division kind of situation. But see, what does that have to do with film? Um, um, oh yeah, well, there's good theater, singing and dancing, but then there's critical theater that teaches people, the hierarchical structure that they live in, and what we need to fix, and so it's just all part of. It's just sort of it can inform as well as entertain.
Yeah, that's good. McLuhan actually distinguished between entertainment and education. Which one do you think pleases more, education or entertainment?
Pleases. Well, certainly one is more seductive and possibly destructive than the other. Education could be taught bad in schools, depending on, I mean, what are they going to teach about this insurrection in the Capitol? Did George Washington even have a cherry tree? So it's kind of a mess. Clean up on aisle 4, 5, 7, 12, and 15.
Good metaphor. Kit, what do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Not what Werner Herzog said or the anthropologist, just your gut intuitive feeling.
Yeah. It's the creativity part of cognition is dreaming, wondering, thinking, wanting to record things. That's the invention of media, when people started blowing paint on their hand.
Yeah, that was a great, the New Yorker article that spawned the Herzog film on cave art was saying that the life expectancy of the cave artist was 15 years old. And they were inventing spray paint, basically, what you just said. They blew pigment. And so I always say the inventors of art were graffiti, kids.
Yeah, that were graffiti artists.
Yeah, they were.
They didn't have a subway. They were in a subway, but they had to walk.
Well, a word that you brought up at SciArc, I thought, was agitprop. They were just like little punk agitprop kids, spray painting shit on the walls. So
yeah, we have to protect that sort of early development period a little bit better than just sort of putting people through a factory stamping out people.
Well, I think that's what you provided. Electronic Cafe, you can see how you had younger people being able to touch keyboards and not just like to do math and, typical high school American education stuff.
Yeah, but we tried to, this was a whole sort of a acculturation process, learning to play these instruments like jazz musicians, and not just try to look good on Skype. Obviously, I'm not, but so it was, and so we worked with the traditional arts like music and stuff like that, telecollaborative everything. We did telecollaborative everything. But we also set up, when we got full motion video stuff, we set up international poetry readings with deaf kids because we had enough frame rate that they could, do stuff. And in our early work with the composite image space, we had we had a student at we created a lab at Loyola and Marymount University, invited by the art department director. And so on Saturdays for 10 hours, we bivouacked in the composite space, and we worked out all kinds of problems and living together and eating together. And we had a student who had a phobia about being touched. And she would say, "Don't touch me, don't touch my stuff." And but after a while, she could explore being touched in the composite image space. And by the end of the semester, she became a chronic hugger.
Nice. She had to learn how to hug in the discarnate state, and then it morphed right into the carnate state. So, Kit, tell us, what early in your life did you grow up watching TV or going to movies? What was the turning point where you went, "Hey, I can do that"? You said you were making your Rat Fink t-shirts or, with your friend, but where did you turn over, sort of walk us through your through line from high school, college. Where did you go? Oh, I can do this kind of exploration that you did. Where was the turning point?
There is actually a moment. And it was a complete accident because I don't remember if Captain Kangaroo was on that you could watch it before you had to be at school or not. I can't remember that part. But I do remember a snow day where we didn't have to go to school. And you can find these videos. There was a character that would show up on the Captain Kangaroo show. He was called the Banana Man. And, even when you're a kid, you try to look at occupations and trajectories and careers. And, do I want to be a singer? What do I want to be? So you don't really sweat it too much, but this clicked into that, or it made something happen that was liberating. So the Banana Man was a guy who came out in a clown outfit, and he would play a rubber violin and just woo you like that. And he had big, deep pockets, deeper than Captain Kangaroo. And out of his pockets, he would pull out these cardboard things, and he would set up a train. We had the engine, a coal car, a couple of other utility cars that were just sort of open boxes. And he would keep pulling stuff out of his clothes, and then he would throw them in that until the whole train was filled up. And then he drove off stage at the end of the program. And I thought, wow, if that's you can do anything. And the other show I watched was Winky Dink. I've got the world's greatest Winky Dink collection. I got everything Winky Dink. Yeah, that was a show where there was a cartoon character that had a star-shaped head, and you were supposed to send off and get the Winky Dink kit, which was a piece of light green vinyl that would stick to your TV set by static electricity. And then you would use the magic crayons and the magic erasing cloth. And the character would get into trouble, so you'd have to draw a bridge so he could cross a crevasse, or you'd draw a cage around an attacking lion. And it was just interactive television. So Winky Dink was the patron saint at Electronic Cafe. But
that is, I thought you were going to mention him right off the bat, and probably Ernie Kovacs a little too.
Yeah, he was doing composite image space in the studio, and that's the whole thing. The art world was doing, Nam June Paik stuff and stuff, and we knew Nam June. And in fact, in Good Morning, Mr. Orwell, when Merce Cunningham was dancing with the satellite feedback, that's what we showed Nam June 7 years earlier that we were doing at the Satellite Arts Project. He gave us a credit, but not specifically. But anyway, we were about people convening in this space, not making TV shows.
Yeah. No, Kit, yeah, it's amazing. We're covering a lot of ground. I appreciate it. A screenwriting teacher told me that great art, great film is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great film, great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
Oh gosh. What role does intention play? What is there but intention that creates action? I mean, you got to get yourself some intention first. So you get your intention together, and then you push it out into the world. And you can either say I did it or not be the author. Just let it let the public finish it. So we were not catering to audiences. In fact, even at the Electronic Cafe, we didn't want to be a big venue. We didn't want to create a space where there was an audience watching the program. The whole thing about the acculturation at the Electronic Cafe was that it was a place of involvement. But of course, we did do special interest groups, the VR groups that did presentations and stuff like that. But a lot of times, it wasn't a show. Sometimes it was a show, it had to be a show and tell, presentations. But a lot of times it was just involvement in meeting up with other people like Earth Day and stuff like that, and asking questions and talking to the Soviets and talking to Cubans and talking to people in Omar Cabezas in Guatemala, all that kind of stuff. So politics, art, and the things we did in VR, and all the leaders of industry came to us, and the inventors too, of See You See Me and Vermal. We had a Vermal barn raising where they did a 3D dimensional model of the Electronic Cafe in full detail, and people could come and go through that 3D version of the Electronic Cafe to get a lay of the land and prepare themselves before they got there. And so it was an international telecollaboratory lab in which we were looking at not only will this carry conventional arts, what are the new aesthetics or creative possibilities that hadn't existed before. And it's all keyed around one thing, and this is what we all need to do, is collaborate, telecollaborate, and get beyond Facebook and build this next world. And it's such a mess now, it's going to be hard to retrofit.
Yeah. Well, I think you've contributed to this cliche turned into an archetype line. Says, how can we make the world better? But I wanted to ask you this question about humans. And I spoke with Michael Apted, who passed away a couple weeks ago, great filmmaker. This was 35 years ago. I asked, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? You know, we know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 22, but it really flourished 35 years ago when MTV started. Marty Scorsese even said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. Michael Apted said, that's because we can learn to take in information faster. My question to you, Kit, is a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Well, there isn't a universal speed limit for human beings as how fast they can go or how slow. We're all kind of like running on a different tracks sometimes. So I don't know. I think back at TV episodes of Star Trek, and somebody studying the whole, some alien is seeing the screen go like this, and then in 2 minutes they walk away and they know everything about the human experience. I don't know. I mean, you can't do that with words. You could do that maybe with, no, I don't know.
Well, here's the bottom line.
Headache just to think about it.
Excuse me for giving you that, but the real bottom line question is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
Yeah. I mean, some people do it really good and some not so much. But yeah, I mean, when you're in combat, you're multitasking. That's for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I'm noticing I can't multitask as good as I did 30 years ago. It's very I'm surprised. But I'm not.
You just take a deep breath and relax and say, what's your hurry? It's like the Mad Magazine joke I love. Two guys are in quicksand and one turns to the other and goes, are we in quicksand? He goes, yeah, but what's your hurry?
Well, I think it's been noticed that as people age and maybe they can't multitask as much, they slow down a little bit. And maybe they got a little money in the bank and maybe they don't have to go to work and life is easier and it's like that. But when they look back at the life, they can't remember because they were going too fast.
Yeah. You've accomplished a lot, and thank God for Gene Youngblood to document it all and all your great stuff that's online. We can learn about it.
You know, it's the 50th anniversary of Expanded Cinema, and he wrote a new introduction to it, and he wrote about 3 people that influenced his life. Heinz von Forster, that introduced us, and Geodesic Dome guy, Buckminster Fuller, and Kit and Sherry. You know, he moved after he found out about us, after Electronic Cafe was over in '84, he moved into our house for 3 years and we stayed up nights after nights, and he related in that that new introduction that it was the happiest times of his life.
It's
and
beautiful.
Then he moved to Santa Fe. And
it's
now
beautiful.
He is in bad but hopeful condition. He had a heart attack and he's getting better on that, and he's got to get a nerve going through his spine straightened out and some other things. But he's been going through some rough times. But there is a good chance he's got some good doctors down there in New Mexico. So we hope he gets better.
We do. And Gene had about 8 Zoom sessions when the pandemic first hit, and I attended every one of them, and that's really what got me going, because he was bringing you up, and I goes, I've been trying to interview Kit for 20 years, and so it finally got us together. So
well, I'm up. Sherry passed away in 2013 after 25 years of struggling with multiple sclerosis. We packed it all up and I moved out here on a dear friend's, an amazing woman, politics, all kinds of stuff. She's retired. We're out here on a horse ranch in the high desert.
No, I know about that. And I hope the best for you. And I know
I'm glad I'm not in town anymore.
Yeah. But I know, just to stay on Sherry for a second, in 25 years of being her caregiver, what did you learn from that experience? I mean, that must have been quite an amazing dedication and like an intense period of your life. What do you think you learned from that 25 years? Because I know what you did before that with her is amazing, but being in the midst of that 25 years of being a caregiver, I'm just curious, what was your takeaway, as they say, or what did you learn, or how did, any comments?
Well, that truly our coming together was just magical. It sort of created, we were like a tornado. And that bonding was profound, and we were so blessed. A lot of people aren't that lucky. A lot of people are teams, you know, and so there was you. It was just going to be. It was just going to. I was just going to be there. I mean, there wasn't any question about it. There's just too much love and caring, and all I could do for her was my best, and it sort of worked out. But the clock ran out, and
Yeah.
and she went away. And like I said, I'm not religious, but I think she's out there somewhere, and someday I'm going to go find her.
Beautiful. Is perception reality?
No. Is reality perception? No.
You win. That's what I'm about, is answering questions with new questions. So you've accomplished a lot. Name these three elements in the order they helped you: luck, skill, and ambition. In all your accomplishments, what would you rate the highest, in the middle, and the third?
Luck.
Luck's number one. What's two? Skill or ambition?
Skill.
Yeah.
Ambition is kind of tricky. We never wrote about our work. We talked about it. We were recorded and interviewed and stuff like that, but we didn't want to try to explain it. And actually, when we first started, the things that we were doing, it was like landing on a continent that had no language. You know, you had to show it in drawings and dance it out and wear a hat and a cane and try to communicate it. And somehow we managed to do that even in words, which still astounds me. I don't know how we strung together the words, because neither one of us were like wordsmiths. But what was the question? Ambition. We didn't want to be celebrities or be bothered or things like that. We did a little bit of teaching at, Cal Arts, UCLA, stuff like that. But we always quit. We always did about a year and then stuff like that. But no, we were actually. It's almost if this door opened up when we were in Paris, and like they say about Americans, they reinvent themselves there. And we said, we don't want to make video and try to get it on the TV and it just blows away like a wind. And so we just wanted to creatively animate and create approximations of what we saw as these new ways of being in the world that hadn't arrived yet and hadn't been seen due to a crisis of imagination. That's the only way we could explain it. This is stupid. This is pedestrian. This is like obvious. Why aren't we doing this?
Yeah. No, you answered the question well, like you have all along, Kit. And it is fun watching the SciArc 2 hours, because you and Sherry are almost creating a live poem together, especially because you move the mic, and it's really fun to watch that dance. But
we would finish each other's sentences.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We had a rule. Whoever interrupts takes it. And, yes. And then if you were pissed off, you wouldn't take it back. You just let them hang themselves.
So T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner voice, inner dialogue in?
Some dyslexic, swirl of stuff, Yeah. I'm not a linear kind of guy at all. I have my own kinds of dyslexia.
Yeah, you really. I have Lixdixia. You have a good, Kid. You have a good sense of my questions. They're all jokes and playful, and you get it. You get along. People take them too seriously, but what's the function of poetry? Because you even had one of my favorite poets who I asked all these questions, Linda Albertano over there doing her poetry, and she's one of my goddess godheads. So
you know what she did? she would read at our place, and the Karma Bums and all of, we had that going on all the time. And yeah. Bowerberg got the first group of poets coming, but we had to make them go away because they were putting boot marks on our walls. It was just getting way out of hand and too much booze. But she finished a poem one time, and we're recording it and everything. And then she had this bag of silver glitter that she just threw out into our videotape recording machines and all kinds of stuff. So she was banned for a week.
I can't wait to tell her. So what is the function of poetry?
Oh, yeah, to just sort of get beyond language, the didactic written form.
Yeah. So, George Manupelli started the Ann Arbor Film Festival like almost 60 years ago. I'm going to be attending in a couple weeks here, the 59th. His mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So is art making more self-expression or more you're just vehicles for whatever dominant technology or culture is present?
That's kind of a mess.
That question is a total mess. Here's the bottom line. Can art making be egoless?
Well, you got to say, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of carry a little bit of Midwest with me. I just feel like I want to help, but the whole ego thing, and like I said, we didn't promote ourselves.
Yeah.
But we got money from the art world and the industry and NASA and MoCA, and so it just sort of like happened. I guess we were just appeared to be I don't know. It was like like when we got to New York, we went to Howard Klein's, he ran the Rockefeller Foundation. He invented video art. He supported video art, all the artists, Namjoon Paik, Howard Weiss's gallery, and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I've given all the money away, but I'll write you a letter that a promissory note that next year I'll give you $20,000. And we said, okay. And we went away and got too busy and filed that. And I didn't find that letter. And he died. I found it 3 years ago.
That is a great story, Kit. The thing is, you're not sad. It's like, oh, I'm sure you could use some money. But, this whole thing about promotion, and I would like to say these 3 quotes and just get your reaction. McLuhan said that advertising is the cave art of the 20th century or 21st century. And then there's a great line that says, create the disease and offer the cure. And then Igor Stravinsky says, most people don't know what they like what they know. So this whole idea of
this is marketing. This is the whole propaganda. This is Goebbels. This is what was the guy's name in New York? He was a cousin of Freud.
Oh, that's Bernays.
Yeah.
Oh, it's total Bernays. Yeah. Create the disease and offer the cure. But it's also the funny thing I've learned from studying James Joyce, Finnegan's Wake, and McLuhan breaking the code of this book that actually invented Clubhouse, TikTok, and Facebook and disguised as a book is that, it's sort of like effects precede causes. This is what the symbolist poets learned from Edgar Allan Poe, that you don't paint the painting, as Mallarmé says, you paint the effect you want the painting to be. So the effect precedes the cause. And so that's what symbolism did to advertising. They just says, we're not trying to get you to buy this car. We're trying to have you see the ad and go, that's who I am. You know,
Sad.
I guess, yeah, but it's better to say, you know, how effects precede causes in electronic pointillism. So this is a better example. I'd love to get your reaction to this one, because it's Seurat used mosaic dots to paint. He prepared us for the mosaic dots of the TV screen.
He invented pixels.
He invented pixels. Yeah. So that was effects precede causes. That's why Salvador Dali did the cover of TV Guide.
I knew Salvador.
You knew Salvador, yeah.
Yeah, we made a 3D video with him in Paris, and I went to his home and for a week and videotaped it. Gala took me to the egg room and tried to hit up on me.
Did she? Oh my God, that is a great story. Gala hit because, you know, I mean, we could. The great thing is, Kit, you're not like a name dropper. You want to talk about these things, but you know, I can name drop who I saw at Electronic Cafe. Conlon and Carroll, one of my heroes. Timothy Leary, Derek DeCurva.
We would beam Timothy into Canada and other countries to do a thing where he couldn't get a visa. We would teleport his butt there.
Yeah. But, you know, Carl Andre, the sculptor, said sculpture as place. And I'm interested if you elaborate on what you meant by virtual space, an electronic environment.
Well, we defined the image as place. I think we were the first to do that. There was always images. Yeah. You looked at them, you went to a museum, there were images and magazines and stuff like that. But we defined the image as place with the Satellite Arts Project. I mean, we thought that might rattle the art world. But the art world just sort of promoted Hole in Space and tried to turn us into a one-hit wonder. Yeah. But when people were gathering in the image as place, it was the space and the place. Yeah. Whatever your question was, I lost.
No, you're talking about it. It's image as place, because is your study of human senses that neuroscientists, neuroscience is so hip and trendy now, pop neuroscience, but a lot of them lean towards saying that the visual sense is more impactful than the ear sense, the hearing sense.
Let me ask the eyes. The eyes have it.
Well, I like, you know, the thing also studying Marshall is sense ratio shifting. So if we say there's 5 major senses working, and we know there's more, that, you know, if we're reading a book, we're more eye oriented, and if we're listening to a radio show, we're more ear oriented. But what human activity is where all 5 senses are working equally?
What involvement requires all the senses?
Yeah.
Tap dancing? I don't know.
Oh, that's just dancing alone. I've had that answer, but tap dancing is good. But see, one thing I loved was at the SciArc a presentation that you did with Sherry on YouTube is when you say electronic cafe, she stresses, and you can eat there. And I remember, I remember going up to the snack bar, you know, and getting something good to eat, to have that experience where it isn't just like this isolated, you know, just sterile.
It's about lowering the intimidation situation. In a venue, to make it informal. We wanted informal venues. You know, you have computer classes in libraries and schools and stuff like that, and they close at 11 o'clock. We still need, in fact, you know, Steve Harrison at the Media Space Lab at Xerox Park, he invited us there because he saw Hole in Space and he thought it was amazing. And it was clear in '77, I was at Xerox PARC and did a video documentation of a presentation of the Alto graphic user interface thing 2 years before Steve Jobs. Of course, he did a little better than I did, but and then after Electronic Cafe, we were invited up there to talk to them, and they didn't know how to work with our. Anyway. By the time we got up to Xerox PARC in the mid '80s, it was clear that Elvis had left the building. You know, these people were just nuts, and they were doing desktop things. They wanted to get telecollaboration up and running, and but I lost my point. There was a point in this. But anyway, so we left the place. We said, you need to learn how to work with artists, and started an artist in resident program. And they did 2 years later, and they made a big book of some underwhelming work. And I don't know what happened. They all moved on. But yeah, I lost my point. Where were you heading me?
We'll get back to it, because this is the great thing of effects precede causes and sense ratio shifting. It will flow back around. So, Kit, tell me one, in all your years doing what you've done, how do you say the word avant?
Like avant-garde, avant-preneur.
Avant-preneurism. All your years doing that, tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that changed.
Didn't happen. I mean, we, you know, when we did Hole in Space, we didn't want to light it to draw people to the window like moths to a flame. We used infrared emitters and military cameras that could see that, so that we didn't have to put lighting out there. In 1980, to do color video, you'd have to burn a barn, you know, to see. And those two companies got together and created patient monitoring devices in hospitals when the lights were out in the room. And so our avant-preneuring work was, it introduced, we used to go to industry trade shows with students and stuff like that, and we would say, we're here to take the con out of teleconferencing. Sometimes we'd get kicked out. But we would see these people selling this thing on this side of the aisle, and this person selling something, and we'd say, you guys need to get together. So our whole process was about, you know, humans recognize patterns. We were recognizing systems integration that wasn't getting together. We went to one conference that was demonstrating international ISDN, and we took over this video conferencing booth and called France and got some deaf children over there, and called, it was near Washington, got some students there, and we had in the middle of this conference a deaf poetry session. So we just walked through life sort of like, you know, hooking this stuff together, like taking a community memory from word, you know. And then after Electronic Cafe, 2 years later, The Well came online, and it was still just a text-based BBS. If we had done Electronic Cafe in the Bay Area in '84, the artists who were born on The Well would have been born, and including Howard Rheingold, who thought he invented the terms virtual community when we did. They would have been born into a whole world, different world of expectations.
Well put, Kit. You're doing great. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're usually taught to overcome a weakness. Can you tell me a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength?
Well, I have a problem with writing about our work, and I've never solved that problem. It's just when I put the stylus down to a paper or reach in a keyboard, everything just comes out at once. and I just keep writing it over and over and over and over and over again. And I can't string the pearls together to say what I want to say, because it's, oh, I didn't say that, or I need to put this here and I need to do that. So I've just given up on trying to wordcraft my way through, writing about what the hell we were doing.
But if you could consider that a weakness, how is that morphed into a strength for you?
Leaving that frustration behind and working harder on trying to achieve the other stuff.
Way to go. You got that well. How do you find peace of mind, Kit?
Peace of, I've never been depressed. I actually went to the VA, and I was having some problems. It was towards the end of Sherry's life, and I was like, they say the caregiver can go down first, and I was really sort of like dangling in that direction. And so I was feeling a little bit down. Well, why are we talking about that? Were we talking about depression? No.
No, well, were just saying.
It's a good story. So they put me on these pills, and they had a guy there that just sat with his foot on his desk, and he said, order this book from Amazon and read it and take your medicine. Well, I was taking this stuff, and after it took a few weeks to kick in, and I started walking around whistling show tunes, and I said, I don't need this shit. I need to feel the pain. I don't need to be. So I told the VA doctors, I said, I think I'm going gay. And so they took. So I had a meeting with the head of the department, and knock knock. He said, oh, I'm Kit Galloway. Oh, you're the guy going gay. And then he laughed and let me in. And he said, just get a job, dude. Get busy, do something. And I said, okay, fine. I'm done here. And about 6 months later, I inquired about the department, and they said, that guy killed himself.
Oh my. But did you, you mean they tried to put you on meds, you tried it, and then you dropped them?
Yeah, because they were kind of working, but they just put me in like a cloud, like walking around literally whistling show tunes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There's a line that goes, you create what you resist. And Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. Actually, James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. But Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So how do you react to this idea? I'm not saying it's true or not. One creates what one resists.
That's curious. I don't remember doing that.
Yeah.
That would be like not good.
Okay. Can you forget to die?
What?
Can you forget to die?
Can you forget to die? I'll say no.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Listen to yourself.
That is good. I'm going to ask you these 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head.
A couple of times.
Say it again.
I videotaped a couple of lectures of his in Amsterdam at the Paradiso.
Nice. Oh, he's one of my heroes. I listen to him every Sunday morning on KPFK, and he's in enlightening. He's an entertainer. He'd admit it, But these are just 5 quickie questions. Just answer in like 3 to 5 words. Just brief. Okay, here we go. Who started it all?
The creation.
Are we going to make it?
Stay tuned in.
Where do we put it?
behind us, with us, in front of us.
Who's cleaning it up?
Some sorry bastard.
Is it serious?
So, what?
Is it serious?
Yeah.
Great. You really did. Yeah, that was super, Kit. I'm just going to ask you a couple more, and then we'll bring in Clinton, because, boy, you're a pioneer in the world Clinton is really delved into. He's a netizen. You know, he's deep into taking computers apart and knowing this whole world. So I'm going to ask you one more, and then we'll bring Clinton in, and then I'll ask you a couple closing. You know, there's a distinguishing factor that was discussed, and it's called light through and light on. And I was wondering if any of it resonated with you. So light through is like stained glass window, right brain, and more like TV, light through. Light on is more like film, mural, left brain. Does any of that resonate with you? The difference between
Is
film?
the difference between projecting on the front of the surface like film and rear projection like pixels coming through glass at you. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, light on and light through. You know, in one they say light on, light through is more right brain female, light on is more left brain male, but it's more so how does the human behavior shaped by the difference? Is it being shaped differently?
I would say not so much, but there is a difference between phosphorus and LED backlit screens. And, the most important, not the most important thing, but here's something about all of this. The Europeans are 50 cycle electricity and we're 60.
Yeah.
And apparently the flicker rate of 50 frames a second over in Europe causes people to go into spasms,
epileptic.
Yeah, more frequently than in the United States, and and that goes all back about electricity, and somebody made a decision, and we've been out of sync ever since. But so I think it's more about flicker rate. I've actually spent a lot of time sharing it on a screen. And I'd take a break and I'd go through the sliding glass door and step out here. And I noticed that clouds and stuff keep looking like they're shrinking like this, but they're not. And other kind of effects. So I'm sure there's studies about all of this frame rate and flicker rate and all that kind of stuff. I think maybe that's more important as to whether it's shining through or shining on.
Yeah, because I studied Tony. Say it again.
But you can't shine it on, brother.
So Clinton, join us on. I show flicker film. I mean, I make films with the flicker rate, like Tony Conrad's The Flicker. And we have to put a warning in before the film starts, because it literally, we say strobe effects.
Who did that? Surgeon General, or who did that? Who made that? Or you're just protecting your own liability?
No, I think it's courteous to the audience, because I actually showed a flicker film once without a warning, and one of the audience members had an epileptic fit. So I feel it's my duty to tell people.
Yeah, rather.
But it is an effective effect to put in films. So Clint, this guy is like the pioneer of everything. You've had Howard on your show. Yeah, this guy Kit is the main man. We're lucky. So what do you got, Clinton?
Awesome. It's awesome to meet you, Kit. I think that this connection between architecture and images as space is really poignant. I just finished.
Sherry was an architect. She got a degree in Berkeley.
Yeah, it's like so. There's this book about how IBM was developing. It's called The Interface. John Harwood, a guy Jerry and I were just speaking to, recommended it. And it's about how architects were designing computers with this whole idea that they were sort of bringing people into interface with abstract systems and how they became spaces and whatnot. And so the video effects that you were working with, sort of, if you went to Xerox PARC, that's fantastic. Like you can sort of see how these images sort of turn into spaces. So what's the relation to the development of, what are your thoughts about like the relationship of people's development to of their like bodies or sense of self in spaces which grow more and more virtual? Because I see that a lot of stuff happening around me that could be explained precisely in those terms. What sort of building did you grow up in? What sort of cyberspace did you grow up in, and how does that make you feel about your body or your identity? Is that something that you see being pursued? Is it anyone pursuing that? Have you thoughts on that?
Well, space is in long distance telecommunications or going into places. Back in the 70s, when we were using satellites where it takes 1/8 of a second to get up and down, we were calling it thin time, thick space. And or was it thin space, thick time? That's what it was. And yeah, with Sherry, we sort of saw this as creating space. The hole in space was a new social commons.
Mm-hmm.
It created a place that people occupied. There are now, I don't know where you're going with this, but I suppose it's possible. Are you talking about actually projecting architecture that people live in, and that they have tactile or immersive VR kind of things, or stuff like this?
Is the relationship between our tactile or relation to our physical environment, which, kids playing Red Rover and knocking each other off, knocking each other down in the playground or hitting each other with snowballs, which I'm sure you can't do anymore, right? Thank God I got a little of that in, before I went to school. It wasn't.
Oh, come on. We had our whole playground in grade school was just killing machines.
Yeah. Same with mine, right? Thank goodness. Or a small town, just a little bit more, lax on that sort of thing. But yeah, so I mean, that sort of development, rough and tumble play, essential for motor dexterity skills, all this sort of thing, and you're actually using your body in physical space. Now,
yeah, we need to do that. So you're talking about, so after years of development of doing that, or maybe that's some sort of like remedial education that people will have to have on the side when they take the small bus to this get physical playground and then come back to the virtual world.
Yeah, right. You're right. Like, these are the sort of conversations I don't see happening, which is kind of why I'm really grateful to come across, right, this idea of architecture and images as architecture, when you can interact with them and when there's some embodied aspect of you interacting with images. Because it's clear watching Hole in Space that these people in New York and in LA who are staring at this giant video screen being instantaneously broadcast across the country, talking to people standing on a street corner on the other coastline. It's clear that they're treating it like a science fiction Doctor Who portal just opened on the side of the street, with the amount of shock and awe and wonder.
People met on the same end and got married, and people met through the window and got married.
That's incredible. It's incredible.
There was even a wake, because on the first day, two reporters who knew each other in New York and LA, she went home that night and they were going to meet the next day, but she was robbed and murdered in her apartment. And then that was found out. And then on the third day, some people got together and they had a little wake for her. So all kinds of life took place in that.
Wow. See, that's incredible. I mean, see, this is the content level of media awareness, right? And so, like, this is like content changes our idea of space, and now space is recursive, right? I like to say that when I'm on my computer, it's like I'm looking over my little tank of sea monkeys, like playing God, and then I put on my sea monkey costume and walk out the front door and walk around in this freaking environment under someone else's scrutiny, right? The way content has made space recursive now with social media. And instead, all the conversations seem to be like, well, there's not enough representation of this minority today, so we need to add the mix and keep all the sea monkeys exposed to the right, levels of whatever. It's not that that's not important. It's that it's completely missing the point of actually looking at what the hell's going on in the first place, or how it is people are adapting to these environments. So like when you were looking at the thing that you were doing as an art form turn into this like scholastic study in the
well, we really weren't artists. We didn't go to art school. We were just interventionists.
Well, someone had to, so thank you. What was your reaction to the professionals and the institutions taking on the job of exploring this setting that you had already been playing around with 20 years prior, as they institutionalized and wrote books on, I don't know, post-humanism or digital lifestyles or whatever?
Well, it's again, they're just becoming consumables. When we wanted to do virtual reality, we weren't willing at the time. Computer rendering polygons, computers couldn't render human beings in real time. They were too damn slow. And on down the line about other things, about the slow development. We were looking. Actually, we were thinking maybe 15 years out. Now it's 30 years out. There's still the uncanny valley problem, and the duplex problem, in that, as well as computers can render, we sort of get this odd feeling about seeing, that you're not mom, okay? Don't tell me this is mom. But you don't know, I worry about AI, and I worry about the fact that, okay, here's an ugly idea. What if we are just kind of like the dinosaurs? We are biological mammal creatures. We have to eat and we have to shit, which is not great for traveling far into other galaxies. What are you going to do? Mm-hmm. So maybe we're just here to dig up the metals, invent photolithography, and put some silicon together and write a little bit of AI code and turn the keys over to the robots, because they might be better gardeners than we are and able to travel the universe. And what created the universe seems to me intuitively that it wants some consciousness to look back at them and in grandeur and amazement. And mammals may not survive the next 100,000 years. Mm-hmm. So maybe we're just sort of here as a component to deliver the sustainable, better managers.
Yeah, so a million years from now, life is going, where did we come from? Abiogenesis, we don't have cells, we're machines. And then they had the bootstrapping theory. Well, maybe there were some chemical weird life forms that created us and they all died off, right? Oh, no, that's preposterous. What are you talking about, right?
And Mars gets in its orbit, opposing orbits. There's times when it's like 25 minutes to say hello, and then you have to wait 25 minutes to say, sorry, wrong number.
Yeah, well, it's funny because at the same time, there's still people paying very good money to shave 20 milliseconds off their real-time video game playing with someone in Japan right now, right?
Oh, you know about the stock markets. These guys that got busted several years ago, they had like 1,000 miles of optic cable in a warehouse, and they had all the other guys riding through that to lose a few milliseconds on the buy.
Wow. I believe it.
Yeah, that's ambitious.
That's right. See, these are all the scopes of measurement which are outside of the human scale, which is a term McLuhan sort of abandoned later on. It's like we can think about stuff at the way that our senses are set up in that Goldilocks zone where we can track it and we're comfortable, and room temperature and easy to follow, but then people get lost having to visualize and imagine things at the super colossal level, or the microscopic and the atomic level, or the fractions of a second, like when I'm doing audio work and it's like 20 milliseconds off or something like this, right? And you have to use your imagination. You get drawn out of your immediate surroundings into some virtual visual, measured, technologically mediated way to get in sense with all these things beyond the human scale, and we tend to lose stuff. So when you say we need to acknowledge the grandeur of the universe, yes, but more importantly, we have to get real comfortable and friendly with mundane conversations about the weather every day as well, and find the beauty in that more so, because that's what we're losing in the quest for sensation and whatnot. Yeah. Anyway, no, thank you, Kit. Just one more question. Architecture. Sorry, just because I love that. Who came? How did you develop that parallel? Do you remember? Was it you or Sherry?
Well, yeah, we would talk. So we were creating these. We were inventing things, and at the same time, just noticing what wasn't getting done. And with her, she didn't even show up to get her degree. She went to architecture school, quite frankly, because they were the only department that had video. Oh, and she made a project. Every student was supposed to make their idea of a housing project, and Sherry made one with a public space in the center, like a donut. And her professor, who was pretty famous, respected, he said to her, "This is typical architecture of a woman. Only a woman would do this."
Oh my God.
So Sherry then didn't care so much about her grades.
Sure.
And she went home, and a couple of days later, and so there was this exhibit of all the students, projects. So Sherry and a friend took some LSD and some golf clubs and went over there and smashed all the exhibitions. And didn't go back to pick up her degree.
Fair enough.
So architecture has its problems. Look at the stuff that they're building. And then some interesting ocean vehicles that are, anyway, architecture is the space that we humans make to do their thing. And we're going to need that. We're going to have to start using less cement. Architecture is like the other half of the global warming problem.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
Really good, Clinton. That was super, and we could go on forever, but let's close it out now, and maybe we'll do another one, Kit. This has been enlightening, and I think one point that's needed here is that Winston Churchill said, "We shape our buildings, then they shape us." And McLuhan so astutely knew you take aphorisms and reword them or fuck with them. So he said, "We shape our tools, then they
tools shape us." Yeah.
Shape us. So he got
hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yes, that's Mark Twain. And it goes on and on. So 2 more final questions, Kit, for now. And thank you once again. This has been truly enlightening. What's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today?
Hopefully the downfall of Trumpism.
Yeah.
We're getting pretty close to this kind of Mussolini deal, where he's standing out on the thing and ripping his mask off and trying to look like Superman. No, this is crazy. We're really playing with crazy. We got a real big problem, and the Confederacy never died. It's just still hanging out there.
Yeah. And then lastly, Kit, what gives you the most optimism?
Optimism.
You know how to flip things. When you brought up AI, I love that because I like to flip AI into IA, which is Marshall's. One of his themes was integral awareness, IA. So
situational awareness.
Yeah, situational awareness is good. Yes, that is good. SA.
I think that's a military term.
Yeah. So, Kit, thanks again. We really appreciate your time and energy. Clinton, thank you so much.
Nice meeting you, Clayton.
Nice meeting you, Kit. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Onward.